start it because we're being late. Going live.
Excellent connection.
We're always late. We're always late.
It's fine. What are we on?
Yeah, we got like 63 megs. Oh, 5 viewers are waiting. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
They saw everything.
Yeah, they can hear us. Yeah. Hello.
Hey.
Really great to read.
Do you need me now? Yeah, we do.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Would it be possible to take your seats, please, for the presentations to start? Thank you.
Yeah, so we're just gonna walk around and visit my amazing. Like, are we gonna walk with your phone? Or just go with
That's good. Good enough for me.
Hey. Speak about the showcase.
They're waiting for you. Okay, chat is disconnected. Unable to connect to chat. Interesting. Oh, maybe it's okay. Oh, 8? Are you guys gonna? Just hold on. I need a plate. I need a plate. Yeah. You should just drink and you go. You don't worry about it. You're doing great. You're doing it all.
All right, welcome to our Term 1 Showcase. I'm Scuba from South Africa.
I'm Aryan from India.
And we are really excited to have you here to share our projects with you. Even those of you online, we're really excited to share what we've been working on this term. I think it's really important for us to highlight what TGS is. TGS is an international traveling school. We have students and educators from all over the world, and every term we visit a different country. And this term, we're in Malaysia. During our stay here in Malaysia, we've had the chance to learn about the different cultures and food.
So throughout our modules, we got to learn a lot of, we went through a lot of experiences, and we also learned a lot of skills. But before explaining them and giving you an overview of what we did this module, we would first explain what a module is to you. So module is basically teacher-led experiences that happens every term, and all the students share like the same summative, and we work on those summatives and learn new skills every term. And so this term we were focused on learning about cooking, we learned photography, and we learned how to write blogs. So throughout this term we went to different excursions. We visited different tribes of Sabah, and we got to learn about their culture, their history, and then at the end we learned about their cuisine. And we also cooked the dishes of their cuisine. So this was the module overview that was in Malaysia.
Right, so moving on, we have Module 1, which will be presented by Haruka and Kiana. They'll be sharing their experience with Kadazan Dusun and Malay cuisine.
Hello, my name is Haruka.
My name is Kiana.
And so this term, Module 1 has been, well, we will be presenting the Kadazan Dusun tribe and the
Malay
tribe. So starting off with Kadazan Dusun, we took a 1-hour car ride over to the area where they were staying. And so the Kadazan Dusun people, they like to live along the riverside, close to the forest, because they can get easy access to water. And so what we did there was we first followed the locals to, they showed us how to forage for food and other resources. And then they took us back to their camp, and then we spent around an hour cooking 3 dishes: the kinaba, the nina pot, and one more. Something that had to do with rice. Moving on. So here we have the ingredients of the hinaba. The hinaba is what we had there was a salad, fish salad that used a special cooking technique called the pickling that can cook fish with just vinegar and salt. And that's the riverside. That's some of the food and locals, and this is us cooking.
So I'm going to talk about the Malay cuisine module experience, which is this one, where we basically learned how to create the famous dishes here in Malaysia that we're kind of known for, and that's nasi lemak and onde-onde. Onde-onde is the dessert we made, and the nasi lemak was the dish we made. And it was probably one of my favorite module experiences just because it was super hands-on with their cooking, and we learned a lot about just... Okay, that works out. So we went to ATI, which is basically where we learned how to, and where we cooked basically everything, most of the dishes over there. Those were the dishes, and yeah, overall I think it was such a fun but also educational experience, and I just had a lot of fun learning how to learn different cooking techniques as well as just making traditional Malay cuisine, which was really fun. So yeah.
Thank you, Haruka. Thank you, Kiana. Next up, we have Leela and Kamu from Module 2 to talk about their experiences.
No, hold on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mila from France in grade 12.
And I'm Kamu from Australia, from grade 10.
Okay, so we're going to share with you our experience learning about Maruk cuisine and Chinese cuisine. So, for the Chinese cuisine, we started with a meal of dim sum at a very local restaurant called Lot Tien, where we learned customs and we experienced the exchange of cultures. We learned about traditional table manners, dish fusions, and we savored different types of food, like my personal favorites, salted egg buns. They're so good. Pork buns, and we got to taste chicken feet. And then later we learned to cook the following dishes in Asian Tourism International College Kitchen, while asking the history and accessibility to the resources used to produce such delicious delicacies. We learned how to cook char kway teow, chicken dumpling, and lo mai shi, which is very similar to the Japanese mochi but with a peanut filling.
So for the Murut tribe, for the Murut unit, we visited the museums, the State Museum of Sabah, where we firsthand got experiences with the ethnic groups and got to ask many burning questions. Then we proceeded to actually cook their traditional foods at ATI, things such as the paku paku, tumis, ikan bilis, tunggan, and ubi goreng. And before cooking these dishes, we actually got the opportunity to go to the market and purchase these ingredients. And we had to actually order them in Malay. So.
All right, amazing presentation by Module 2, the best module. Next up, coming close but not quite there, we have Module 3. We have Aryan and Bo sharing their experiences with Bajau and Indian cuisine.
Correction, our module is the best. But talking about the Indian experience, we learned so much from our Indian experience. We went to the Gurdwara, which is the Sikh temple, and we really learned a lot about the values that the religion has. And we also sat through the prayer at the Gurdwara, and then afterwards we cooked a lot of Indian dishes, and I am from India, so it was really fun cooking the stuff I ate at home. And so we cooked mixed vegetable, we cooked halwa, we cooked rotis, which is a bread in India, and we cooked lentils, which is dal. And we learned so much about the spices that are used in India and how they could change the taste of the dishes in like 1 teaspoon of curry powder and garam masala. But it was really fun learning about the Sikh religion and also learning a lot about the dishes and how to cook them. So that was the Indian experience. Now, let's go.
I was gonna introduce myself, but he introduced for me. So I'm Will, I'm from the Philippines, and I'm grade 12, module 3, best module, to say. So I'm gonna talk about the Baja Experience, and the thing is about the Baja Experience is, it was the longest experience. Lasted from, I think, around 9 to 5 p.m. and that's when we got back home. But the thing is, you may think that, oh, it's so long, what did you guys do? We rode a houseboat, we cooked food, and we learned about the Baja tribe and the people. And a fun fact about them is, they're originated from the Philippines, my people. And it was actually a really fun experience because, like me, I love the ocean. And the Baja people, they barely stepped foot on land, and they were a nomadic tribe who went in between the Royal Reef Triangle, and they would go back between the Philippines and Malaysia quite often. And the dishes we cooked there was loha, which is the amazing soup you guys tried over there at the buffet. And we also learned about their history and culture and the cuisine as well. Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we have personal projects. And so what are personal projects? Personal projects are student-led projects, and these projects are usually short-term. And these are there for students to explore their interests and passion.
All right, so we have Kita up, who's going to be telling us about her language project on Tagalog.
Hello, I'm Kita. I'm from Canada, Belarus, and kind of the Philippines. So this is an example of my language project, and it's kind of to show that you can do something kind of creative with your language project. But my language project is called Ang Kasaysayan ng Lasa, which means the history of flavor. So why Filipino is probably what you're asking. Like, I don't look Filipino. But it's because I grew up in the Philippines, and I grew up surrounded by the language and surrounded by the people, and my family is Filipino, and I really just wanted to connect to that part of my identity, and I wanted to do it through learning the language.
Yeah!
So, my driving question was, how can I create a cookbook that shows my understanding of Filipino grammar, vocabulary, and cultural context? So how I did it, I first learned the grammar and vocabulary and all of the learning part of it, and then I started researching the history, and then I moved on to researching the recipes and combining that to make my own cookbook. So I would cook the recipes, I took pictures, I compiled it, and I annotated my cookbook. So yeah, I can show you some examples here. So this is one of the pages where I explain the history of adobo. If you know Filipino food, you probably know what adobo is. You probably think that's, I don't know, sounds similar to some Spanish-sounding foods. It's not. That's crazy. But I explain it in my book, and if you move to the next slide, I write about the recipe, and here are some annotations of like grammar and vocabulary. And yeah, that was my language project.
Thank you, Gita. Next up, we have Kemi and Sibokazi presenting their personal project.
Hi everyone, I'm Kemi from Guatemala.
And I'm Sipo from South Africa.
And, and this is our GIS and scuba diving personal project. So over the course of the term, Sipokazi and I explore the concepts of Geographical Information System, also known as GIS, in order to map out different dive sites around Kota Kinabalu and the reef populations as well as the fish populations. So what we did over the course of the term, we had 6 diving experiences in which we used a system called DOV as well as GIS to make our final product.
Right, so what is DOV? DOV is a surveying system where 2 cameras are used to collect data on fish species in an area. With DOV, we're able to understand the habits of fish, the population sizes of fish, and also its relationship to coral, as fish and coral have a pretty good relationship. Fish use coral as a place to stay and to feed on for some species.
So for the coral topography, we observed and identified the notable coral species around these 6 dive sites that we went to. And we used GIS to plot those reefs around Gaia and Slapi Islands, which are off the coast of Kota Kinabalu. And we displayed information about the corals and the reefs using a program called ArcGIS. Furthermore, I wrote a paper about the Indo-Pacific population trends of coral reefs over time.
I looked at fish populations around Gaia Island. Again, we used DOV to collect data on these fish populations. I also wrote a research paper highlighting the important keystone species found in Gaia Island, and as well as the relationship between the fish. Another interesting thing was the threats to these fish species, and it was pretty interesting to see how us humans above have an influence over what happens underwater.
You can also visit our booth for more information, as will be set up at the back after presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, so the next thing we have is Masteries. Masteries are normally year-long, and students who come in to do 3 years have to do 2, and those of us who come into year 11 and 12 have to do 1. First, we have Tebe, who's going to be telling us about his mastery/service learning, and he'll give more context onto what that is.
I'm Tebe from South Africa. So basically, I'll give you an overview of what my service learning and mastery proposal look like. So at TGS, we have like a service learning program that's very different to many schools, as we really want to understand the problem, and so we have to do lots of research, understanding the gaps in the current solutions. We understand the systems. So here's my service learning proposal. I'm not going to explain everything in my slide because it was a long presentation, but I'll give you an overview of what I did in my what a service learning proposal can look like at TGS. So as we want to understand our problem, so we give context to the background in our proposal. So here my problem is that South Africa has the worst wealth inequality in the world by the Gini index. So that was the background information. Next slide. So here I explain what the Gini coefficient is, just to give the people in the panel, because there's a panel, and they decide if your project gets accepted or not, and gives you feedback on how to grow. So you just want to give the panel and everyone in your own more context. The next slide. So an important part about service learning at TGS is understanding the landscape, understanding what is being done, what is making the problem stay. So you try and figure out, you dig deep and you analyze, dissect the problem. So for me, I would look at the challenge, the root, and the symptoms, and what is holding the status quo of my problem, which is wealth inequality. So for instance, here, I would talk about the root, which is for us, I gave the historical root in South Africa about apartheid, and how only a certain bits of the population were allowed to participate in economic activities. The next slide, I just give more context in the next slide. Next slide. So here is another thing that we like doing at TGS, is feedback loops or visual representations of what the problem can look like. So here we have, for instance, this is an example of what a feedback loop can look like. It seems complicated, but it's very simple. So you see one problem leads to another problem. So for instance, if I start my problem here at the top right, where it says historical discriminatory policies, it leads to these two lines. So a divided nation with a divided and race groups and economic status, and then a dualist nation. So that's two different things, and that lead to one thing. And then another thing here would lead to lack of access to the black working class, to the economic apparatus of my country. So I'd basically analyze these loops and make it and see how they come back and how the problem relates with each other. Next slide. It's also, I was here you analyze the existing solutions of what is being done and what is your part in how to help the existing solution. So for instance, I see what my government is doing to combat wealth inequality, and I analyze programs they put there. Then I also put what other external organizations are doing, such as NGOs are doing to help my problem. Next slide. Here you have to do first-hand experience at TGS. It's very important to dive into the problem by actually seeing what it looks like when you go and help. Next slide. And then here is the most important thing. It's probably the longest thing you'll do in service learning, is the impact gap canvas. So here you look for the issue, and then you find a solution. You find the gap where you enter, where you can fix the problem. So for instance, my issue could be that my issue could be I know like like it's the big issue. South Africa having the worst wealth inequality in the world. How can I like enter and give something to change? Like, what is my solution to this massive problem? So I dissected my solution is I could help or like gain perspective on how to create policies and like or like make a policy book to give to an NGO or like something like that, or help NGOs get through my teacher's experience, see how other countries are analyzing and dealing with wealth inequality to give South Africa more perspectives. Next slide. Here is like another slide where you can go through, like here's my slide where I go through the stakeholders involved in my problem, people that are willing to help me and things that are going to help me understand my problem. So here, like I was saying, NGOs, people I want to get involved, and then here, those are some experts around the issue that might help me. And then at TGS, we try and relate them to UN SDGs. So these are the goals that like the UN like sets for like sustainable development. So mine would be reducing inequality. It's fairly, next slide. And then you always, like at all proposals and like service learnings and everything, you have to set a timeline to give the panel an understanding of how you're going to reach your goals. Next slide. And then here, like you've heard this word a lot, driving question. This driving question is what shapes your learning and helps you show the direction, helps the educators and yourself understand the direction you want to take in your project. So mine, that's fine. Okay. And then here, like the last and the most important thing for a service learning proposal is basically understanding, giving the panel an understanding. So when you defend your project, because you defend the projects that you propose, what a successful like service learning looks like. So when you go back to the panel and you defend your project and say, I've met all my goals, this project was a success, you can look at the goals you set at the beginning. Okay, the next part is the mastery part. I'm a bit surprised why they chose me, because this one got declined on the first chance. But we go again and a second time we got it. So here you try and give the panel like, Masteries is a long-term project where you like basically go through the things that are your most passions or you're interested about. So as you can see, like my passions and my service learning collide. So they both have to do with wealth inequality, because I like it's something I see every day in South Africa, and it really fascinates me when I see it in other countries. So I also decided to make my mastery kind of related to wealth inequality, but in photography, because I'm also keen to grow photography skills, and it's something I want to be passionate about. So that's why they kind of related mine and my service learning and my mastery. Next slide. And here is something you find at TGS when you do masteries. You have to create like goals or like target learning, or like learning targets, or AIs. We call them advanced inquiry targets, where you shape what your goal can look like and what you're going to master. So for instance, I say AI number 1 is urban photography. Here I write the criteria of what mastering urban photography looks like, and there's my second one, and you craft them, and they're very different, so it helps you, like at TGS we get to shape our learning. Next slide. Here, like I give like a checklist of what like novice, specialist, and master. So to help you understand, we use something called Bloom's technique, sonomy, which is basically a novice is basically getting an understanding of what you're doing. Like it's like it might be getting notes, gathering evidence of like you showcasing a basic understanding of this area. Specialist would be applying this this understanding, or like applying it, and then mastery would kind of be creating something based on your like applications, like, or like teaching something. It's creating or teaching something new. Okay, next slide. Oh, okay. Well. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so here like I try to give the panel like a view of what I want to achieve in my what type of photography I want to achieve, just to give them an understanding of what I'm aiming for and what my goals are in this project. So I would show like showcases of Camilo Jose Vega's photography because he's something that I want to emulate in my mastery a lot. So I would showcase these are the types of pictures I would want to take because at TGS, lots of people aim for these creative projects, but we don't really give people an understanding of how we want to do it. And like we have to be very specific, especially in the arts, because we do get judged hard. Next thing. Here I gave more context of what I'm shooting, like, and my goals in this project. My goals in this project were basically to shoot the contrast between structures or environmental like aspects of urban areas. So this could be like showing the difference between a building in a certain area and another area, and showing and showcasing that contrast between how people are living. Like they're showcasing the contrast in the park in this area and that park. And in another area. So that was the main goals. And next, and then here, like I kind of explained what urban photography looks like to me and what I think these are the types of things that I might shoot in pictures. Next one, yeah. And then here, like I gave a definition of like of what I wanted, my interpretation of the words that I use a lot, contrast and wealth inequality, and I created my own interpretation so that people like the panel will get a better understanding of what I'm going for and what makes my project different. Okay, next slide. And then here would be my summative product. So the goal is to combine my portfolio, all the pictures I've taken and all the knowledge I've acquired, and draft it into like a website where you can display and see the images that I took, and like and the aim is to juxtaposition high income and low income, or like major contrasts. It might not be high income and low income, but it's just major contrasts in living that you can show, that I can showcase through photography and a website. And yeah, and then I will talk about the equipment I'm using that I'm fortunate to use. And then same thing with service learning, you get to do a timeline, and this gives the panel an understanding of how like you're going to reach your goals, and to keep yourself accountable because you do have a short timeline and you do have lots of tasks. Next slide. I gave an existing framework of like what the like this is a professional Johnny Miller's website called Unequal Scenes, where he basically does a similar thing to what I want to achieve, but through drawing photography. So here's actually my home country, South Africa, where you can see the contrast between this nice green area and then I don't know, shacks and like stuff like that. So you can see the density and then the spread awareness, like the spread. So like it kind of shows you the contrast of what I'm trying to capture and juxtaposition to show that we are living two different lives, that we are doing, it's like a dual world we're living in. Okay, next slide. So here at TGS you have to have an external mentor. I am hoping to get this person who gets the website, but I might not. But that's the opportunities at our cool school. We do have access to seeing lots of photographers, so I'm sure my future terms, like our future terms, I'll have access to local photographers and people that can help you guide. And then you have your TGS mentor, which is mine, Shasta, and then you would like answer questions from the panel.
Thank you, Taylor. And now we want to thank all the people who made our time at Malaysia smooth and like full of learning and giving us their time to explore like different tribes and their cultures and the history of all the tribes that exists in Sabah.
All right, so first off, we'd like to thank Jungwar for making this experience the best it can be. So if a representative from there could please come up and come get a little gift from us. This is the best driver ever.
Next up, we would like a representative from Borneo Sandakan Tours up on the stage, and we want to thank them for making our experience at Sandakan such a beautiful experience with full of we learned so much there. Thank you.
All right, next we'd like to thank our home for the past couple weeks, Hotel 63, for dealing with us, our lost keys, our noise complaints, our drama. We really appreciate
Next up, we have ATI, and we want to thank them for making us learn how to cook, because this culinary experience wouldn't be what it was without you all. So thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we'd like to thank you, the audience, here in person and even our viewers online. Thank you so much for listening to our presentations, and as students really appreciate it. A little round of applause for yourselves. Before we move on to our booths, we'd like a word. I'm not. Come and say I'm sorry. Like a word. Yeah. English is clearly not the first language. No. Play some music.
All right. That was entertaining. Thank you both. Welcome to our first showcase of the year. Thank you to everyone who has made this possible here in Borneo, in Sabah. Thank you to our amazing hosts, Jungle Lore, Ayush, and the crew over in India. But most importantly, thank you to our educators and our CM1 team. Without you, none of this would be possible. You've been the cornerstone of everything we do at TGS and making sure that we not only educate our future change makers, but that we also take care of them socially, emotionally, physically when we have to be at the hospitals, and in any other way. So thank you for all the effort and all the hard work you've put in this term and you continue to put in every day. This is our first term of the year, and we've had more than half of our students as the new students this year. So I want to thank and congratulate the new students for embracing all the madness and the chaos and figuring out what we're all about and learning along the way. Thank you for trusting the process. Thank you for being willing to try things, and the projects that you've prepared and proposed to start next term sound amazing, and I cannot wait to see how and what you'll do with them. Congrats. You've done the first term.
Yeah.
All of that learning for the new students would not have been possible without returning students. I want to say that more than any other year, you as the returning students have stepped up to welcome, to embrace, to teach, and to really show how we do things at TGS and what matters. And all of us Your educators are extremely proud of all the work you've done this term to welcome the new students, continue working on the module 300 hours a week, and do your masteries and service and everything else.
Service.
Congrats. I hope you enjoy the booth area in the back. I believe we have 5 tables ready for you. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you maybe in a year or 2 when we're back at some point. Congrats. Sure. Yeah, come on up.
Okay, I'll call out the name. Please excuse me my pronunciation. Takudin Musa Abdo. Sado. Okay, the next one ready? Charlie Fennel. Okay, next person, please be ready. Kiana Bak. Haruka Shoji. Fato Koruma.
Oh, you don't know how to go? Oh.
Jonathan and
Yeah, like that. Come back. Like,
Maximilian.
Okay, I got it.
One of my best friends.
Jessie Michelle. Next one is Aryan Shukla. Andra Diaz. This is a little bit difficult for me to pronounce. It's Medlai Sago.
Yeah. Tablet.
Nicolas.
Oh.
Get on it! Get on it! Official work.
That is it. Yeah, Kita Bolton. This person shares the same name as me, Mabel Carroll. Okay, the next one is Simple Kazi Sofia.
You're that guy.
Asja Kemzik. And then we have Dana Sarko.
That's my awesome.
The next one is Camo Hello. This one I think is a Korean. 안녕하세요. Don't keep the. Camille S. Surya. Is Zaid Kai Ahmed. Ella Lali, Rachel Ronaldin.
Oh, right, selfies. Is that it? Is this blue?
Thank you.
Alright. Do you need to say something?
If you're running a booth, please set up.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Oh, okay.
to the ATI team.